Alright guys, it is your boy Macca Football. This is my last ever video in 2021, so it's a tiny bit emotional. Funnily enough, it is actually game week 21. We're going to go through all the games and predict them all. Without further ado, let's get into it. First off, we have Arsenal versus Manchester City, and this will be a cracker. Arteta, he has got COVID, unfortunately, so he won't be there in the dugout. So I'm wondering how to see it will affect Arsenal. Will Arsenal play worse? You know, Arteta, he's a very passionate manager, a bit like Pep Guardiola, and maybe not having him around would really push the morale. And Manchester City, they're in first right now. Liverpool just lost. Chelsea are having a bad form, so it's pretty much perfect for them. Arsenal are clearly chasing for that fourth spot and really like to use their youth, so I'm gonna be excited for sort of the Martinelli, Smith Rowes to see how they go up against like a big massive team with some world-class players who are usually in their prime. I'm going to say 2-0 to Manchester City with a Bernardo Silva goal. On to Watford, playing at home against Spurs. Now, when you look at Spurs right now, they are on such great form. I mean, they've won their last 5 games, except for a sort of unlucky draw against Liverpool, which was 2-2. Kane just scored his second goal, which of course was a penalty, but I do think against a team like Watford, he'll get chances to score a goal in open play, and I definitely think he's able to. Watford had such a great start. I mean, players like Emmanuel Dennis, there's a couple others, Joshua King, they were at the top of the top. And then, over the last couple game weeks, it's been crashing down. Their last goal, their last game was a 4-1 embarrassment to West Ham, where West Ham weren't on the best form recently. So, Watford, they really need to make a couple changes. Ranieri, he's a strict manager with a lot of passion, a bit like Pep Guardiola and Arteta, as I was saying. So, he's got to make a couple changes there. I'm actually going to go for a shock 1-1 draw. I'm going to say Watford have it in him. Emmanuel Dennis. Do you know what? Actually, no. I'm going to say Joshua King to score. I just have a little feeling. You heard it first. On to Crystal Palace, playing at home against West Ham. And both teams, they've had a decent game week in game week 20. Crystal Palace obviously beating Norwich 3-0 and West Ham obviously beating Watford 4-1. So we both know the teams have goals in them. When you look at Crystal Palace, they have Gallagher, they have Zaha, they have Elise, they have Eze. When you look at West Ham, Benrahma, Bowen, Antonio, Vlasic. It's going to be a great mashup. One player I think is going to in particular have a great game. I do think that's going to be Gallagher. I would not be surprised if Gallagher gets over 2 goals against West Ham, because they've looked a bit open. I mean, their defence, it's not been great statistically this season. It was much better last season, but West Ham again, they have the goals in them, so really it's pretty unpredictable in my opinion. So if I get the prediction right, even what team's going to win, I'll give that to myself. I'm going to actually say 2-1 to Crystal Palace. I just think Gallagher is going to score 2, as I said, and I definitely think Bowen's going to slot one in. On to Brentford versus Aston Villa. We're halfway through the game weeks, don't worry. Brentford, they've got a hard game. Aston Villa, right now when you look at Aston Villa, you think beatable, but it will be very hard to. I mean, under Steven Gerrard, they look like a whole different team. They look more fast-paced. They're better on the ball, better passers. A lot of their players have been given more spacious roles, like John McGinn, where he can sort of cut inside. He can run with the ball, take a couple touches and then release it. Where Dean Smith, it was a bit more compact. Brentford do obviously have goals in them, but the real question is, how do they perform? We've seen a bad side of Brentford this season, but we've seen a really good side. Sergi Canos to be man of the match, and it's going to be 1-1. Can I just say quickly, can you please subscribe to the channel if you're new or you're not subscribed, because the subscriptions are the fuel to making more videos, and of course I'm back, I'm consistent, you guys are loving the vids, it would mean so much. Back to the video. On to Leeds United versus Burnley. Now at the start of the season, you would not say this is a relegation match. I mean, looking at Leeds, and even Burnley maybe, you would not think that this would be a relegation match, but it really is. Leeds are currently sitting in 16th place and Burnley are in 18th. if Leeds lose, then it's big trouble for them. Seeing as it's going to be January in a couple of days, when this game actually happens, I want to talk about Rafinha. The current gossip is that he's going to move to Bayern for potentially over 50 mil. And honestly, I don't understand why Bayern would buy him. I think Rafinha would be great for Bayern, but you already have Gnabry, Sane, Coman. But for Leeds, that's terrible. You're losing your best player who's got you the most goal contributions this season by actually a mile. So it's going to be very worrying for Leicester, not for Leicester, for Leeds fans. Burnley are a very strong club, you know, their aerial duel statistics are really good. Defensively, they're really good, and that's why I'm just going to say a boring 0-0. You know, Leeds United, they're not going to find the net, and the same with Burnley. But Burnley, I think they'll be superb defensively. On to Everton versus Brighton, and this is a bit of a weird game. You know, both teams have had really good starts to the Premier League, but they've went quiet recently. I mean, especially Everton. You look at when Rafa came in, bit shaky first couple games, started winning a lot of games. I mean, one against United, and now they're getting constant losses. A couple draws though, do have to say recently they've got a couple draws. I think the big problem with them is that Rafa Benitez tactics are just not modern enough. It's definitely too compact. It needs to flow a bit better within the midfield and the attack, because I'm just not seeing enough. Brighton, they just went up to 11th, you know, beating Brentford 2-0, and in that game I just saw Brighton's playstyle is completely the opposite, but they don't have the players to constantly win them games. That's the real problem for Brighton. More pay for Ballon d'Or. I think he's going to score, and I think it's going to be 1-0 Brighton. On to Chelsea versus Liverpool. Ooh, I'd say the front page game week of this game week, because you know, you look at it, two Titans. They are trailing to Manchester City by a lot. I mean, Liverpool's in second, Chelsea, I believe, are in third. Yeah, they are, and they're both on the same points. This is still a title race game. City may be 6 points above them, but this is important, because imagine if City lose their game. If you look at the last couple game weeks, Chelsea have been alright. They've been alright at best. Currently they're playing Brighton at the time I'm recording this. I don't know the score, but they did last beat Aston Villa 3-1. Liverpool, on the other hand, have been terrible. They're getting the chances, but not scoring against Leicester City is a bit worrying for the Liverpool fans, I'd say. It's not that it's bad, it's just that Leicester City's defence this season, statistically, has been terrible, and this was the first game that Liverpool have not scored against a team. So, when you're going up against Chelsea, you play a back five, yeah, you know, Liverpool fans should be a bit worried there. Werner, Lukaku, Pulisic, Mount, they have goals in them, but are they able to perform against a team like Liverpool? I mean, we saw it with Lukaku earlier in the season. He just froze. He froze against big teams. Oh, I'm going to have to say a draw. I know you guys don't want me to, because you want some great scores, but unfortunately, I just want to get the predictions right. So I'm going to have to say a 1-1. Lukaku will score. I think he'll prove the haters wrong, and that will improve when he usually freezes up against big teams, and I definitely think Salah will slot one in. On to the last game of the game week, and it is Manchester United, my team, versus Wolves. Now, can I just say, rate the kit. Macadad set me up with this kit. I'm showing it off a bit in this video, but I think I look pretty decent in it. Enough of the jokes though. We have the players, we have a perfect manager, a super smart manager who made people like Tuchel, Klopp, Nagelsmann, but the players are not adapting to the gegenpress style. We're missing the attacking play style where we pass it about, very fast attacking football, and I'm not currently seeing that from the players. If you don't adapt to a play style or a tactic in the Premier League, then you are going to get caught out. And I think Wolves, they have their tactics set in place. They are playing perfect right now. In fact, they are on our tail. They have of course played one more game than us, but they're still 3 points behind us. They're in 8th, we're in 7th. So honestly, we're fighting for top 6 right now. It's crazy. We should be fighting for top 4, but right now we just need to make sure we get this must win so that we can get the Wolverhampton Wanderers out of the way. Just shove them a bit off. I hate to do this. I hate to say a draw as a United fan, but currently, on current form, when you look at Wolves, you think that's going to be a very hard game with the way they play. So I'm just going to say a 1-1. I'm going to say Neves to do an absolute wonder goal. And I'm going to say Ronaldo to score. But thank you so much for watching. As I did say, please click on the channel if you haven't watched. And please just subscribe if you like the video so that you can see more.